for coming out. This is our second Lunch and Learn back since COVID. Took a long gap there. We're looking at September, October for our next one. I've got another kid coming into September, so I'm going to be busy, so that's going to play a wrinkle in it. But basically, we've been doing these, I think it's since 2015, just as a way to kind of get a lot of the non-for-profits and community groups in a room together to see, learn about resources that are available and how we can kind of pool our resources for the betterment of the whole community. So we're kind of going to go kind of TED Talk format is what, have a couple different speakers, just give a 6 to 8 minute talk. Obviously today's is about homelessness, so that's kind of what I've got. Christine, who's the Township Community Outreach Coordinator, she deals with the homeless that we see at the Township a lot more than I do. She's in there all the time, so she's going to kind of present some on what we see in the Township, and then she's going to turn it over to our various speakers. So thank you again for coming out.
We do have a lot of homeless people, unfortunately. I get them from the library, or I get them from the Madison County Sheriff's Department, or they're coming and jumping on the bus from St. Louis, and they're coming to Edwardsville and wanting help from us. So basically what we do is, if we can do anything as far as like hotel, and they're transient coming through, we'll get them 2 nights. If they need an extra 2 nights, St. Vincent de Paul does partnership up with me, and they'll pay for the 2 nights. I'll pay the whole bill, and then they'll reimburse us the other 2 nights. We do have a small pantry in our basement for someone that does come through that needs something at that moment. We do have items that we give them a sling bag. It is full of stuff for them to take a shower, all their essentials that they need. I do need to come back to the table and get some more men's stuff. I do have a lot of women purses that we do give out for those homeless people that do come through. We've handed out blankets, food, tokens for them to go. If anybody doesn't know, MCT did change their tokens. They're not a quarter anymore, they're $1. So they went from silver to gold. So that way we know which one it is now. We do certified IDs for individuals that can't get an ID because they are homeless. So we could transition them to the homeless hotline, the 618-296-5300. We try to transition them into that because most of them don't have IDs, so they can't go forward with anything. So we at the Township do certify those individuals that they can go to the DMV and get those IDs. I do explain to them that, you know, if your address does change within the 30 days, please let the DMV know. If they do get in any kind of trouble, whether it be a speeding ticket or going to jail, we do get those mailings in the mail to the Township. I do reject them back out to the courts and let the courts know that this is just a temporary thing, that, you know, I cannot get a hold of these individuals because they're homeless. There's no phone numbers to contact them. If I did, I would contact them and say, hey, you have something here from the courts. Other than that, we just try to partnership with everybody to figure out where to put these individuals. It's not going to be a quick fix. We've been talking about this for years. I don't know if there'll ever be a fix. So hopefully we can figure out something, but it's crucial. It is. We do have a lot of homeless people, unfortunately. Some of them want to be helped and some do not want to be helped. But that's the hard part that I do. Yes, sir.
Hi, are you seeing an increase in any particular kind of homelessness, like single men or families or?
I do see single men a lot. It's mostly single men and women single. So
it sounds like you've resolved the issue that single men without an ID can't get services, and you've got a way for them to get it now.
yes, I have to notarize a paper saying that this individual, yes.
Okay.
And they take it to the DMV, and the DMV
That's great.
supplies them with an ID.
They still need to have the proper certificate though, right? They need a birth
The certificate, no,
Yeah.
they don't have to have a birth
Don't they
certificate.
have to have something else? Nothing at all?
No, because I'm saying they're homeless,
Okay.
because that's what they're telling
I
me.
thought the form said that they still needed something.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I haven't had an individual come back and say, no, that I had to have
Okay,
something else.
That's good to know.
Unfortunately, homeless individuals don't have social security card, birth certificate. They don't. Their stuff was stolen, or they lost it, or how.
Right.
So, yeah, so that's where we're at on homelessness. My goal is to eventually get some kind of tracker that we can get involved with, like the food pantry, St. Vincent de Paul, the VA. I know the VA right now is trying to come up with some kind of tracker that we can put these individuals in. They go to the pantry, and the pantry puts that individual's either social or their last name and brings it up. They can say, oh, well, we could see that you've been at Christine and this is what Christine's done. Christine referred you here or there. So hopefully we can find something that we can do for that tracker, that we all can come together and like Jill can go in, oh yeah, I see. The pantry helped with this individual. And then Jill can say, well, the pantry helped you. Let's see what else you can qualify for or whatever, and then move it on. So that's where I'm at, and that's my goal. I need a tracker.
How many per month on average do you see?
It varies, honestly. Last month, we had 5 transients come through, and then this week we had 3 of them come through for MCT, trying to just get somewhere else. Yeah.
Have you know David, our coordinator?
No, I never met Dave Curry.
Oh, you not met him?
No.
Okay, well, I'll fix that.
Yeah, so I would like to
Sounds like
get.
you're doing a lot of same things.
Yes, and we do. So that's where we're sitting at right now. So we don't double work, that's another thing. So you're not double working, I'm double working Jill, the pantry. That's why I want that tracker, so we can track everyone, whether they live here or not live here. So,
So there is some software, Unite Us?
well, I know that the VA, so I went and talked to the VA. They invited me over to talk to them because they do send a lot of people to me also if they don't qualify for VA. So Brad and I sat down, and they have a guy that's right now creating some kind of tracker.
It does exist though.
Yes.
Because, Pam Farrar just went to a conference and she told me about it, and Michelle Babb and I have an appointment on the 12th to talk. Yes, John?
Well, there's a homeless management information system, right?
Yes.
That pulls data.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any way that you could be a part of that?
I don't know, that's something that
We need to
Chris and Dave need to
synergize
talk.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because
Yeah.
it's also used to just determine where there's, housing and other, so it's got a lot of uses.
Yep.
Who's been in
Yes.
shelter, all that stuff.
yes, 100%. And like I said,
I think you should be on it.
well,
since you
being a
provide homeless
certified,
services.
yeah, and being a certified even a SHIP counselor as far as Medicare, I had to go through a background check. I had to be
Right.
fingerprinted. So
Right.
I'm even willing to do that for the township just to jump on with them to
Right.
see what we can do.
Right.
Well, I think
Assistant, and we'd like to introduce our first speaker today. Her name is Jill Sharp. She's the Edwardsville Library Director.
Well, I guess I already talked out of turn, but, well, I'm certainly no expert on this subject, but we do see quite a bit of traffic in the library of people who are experiencing homelessness or who are just transient, a lot of people coming out of the jail. So libraries are, I think, a very unique place in that anybody can come into the public library and there are no expectations that you're going to spend money or do anything. You can just stay as long as you want and be comfortable as long as you follow some basic rules. And it gets a little bit confusing at times because the primary mission of a public library is to provide access to information, to reduce barriers to information. And when you think of that, you think of technology, you think of materials, library programming, but it's become something else, I think, in the last couple of years. And a pivotal point for us was when we had sort of a traumatic event at the library where the staff was all stressed about not being able to really help these individuals, even though we could clearly see that they were in distress. So at that point, we contacted SIUE. There are social workers now in many public libraries across the country, but we don't have the funds, obviously, to hire social workers. So we have had 3 years now, a second-year graduate student from the social work program at SIUE, and then they work 15 hours a week at the library. They've helped us in a variety of ways. They are able to meet directly with patrons if they need referrals to services. And basically that's all we're trying to do at the library, right? We're trying to refer people to an agency that can help them. We are not a homeless shelter. We are not a social services agency, and we don't want to become one, right? That's not our mission. But we do feel that everyone who walks in the door should be treated with the same respect, and we do try to listen to all the requests. And believe me, the public library, you never know what people are going to ask you. When they walk in the door or when you pick up the phone, it's always new and unexpected. But the social work intern is able to meet with people if they need specific referrals. Also has helped develop relationships with local community organizations and churches. So what we have right now is we have bus tokens supplied by First Presbyterian Church that we distribute as needed. They have to come through me. It's not like you come into the desk and we get them. Otherwise, we would have a revolving door. We also, Chestnut and Michelle Babb, St. John's, they have given us some Subway gift cards, so when people come in, we have a lot of people too who are just like hungry, need a meal, they got out of jail, they're trying to find a way home, charge their phone, need some different clothes, they come out in shorts in the winter, there's all kinds of issues going on. But the churches and the nonprofits in Edwardsville have really come together, and that social work intern is able to build on those relationships and help us get the resources that we need. And that's all funded through a grant from FCB Banks because we're required to have MSW to guide the social work intern. So that's one thing we're doing at the library to try to help is that we find a lot of people who are experiencing homelessness aren't good at a multi-step process, right? If they need to do several things to improve their situation, they're really not able to do it well on their own. So I think, for me, obviously there's no easy answer, but I think there are a couple things that we can do. And that's one thing that I've been trying to do in my limited sphere of influence is try to raise awareness about this issue. If you live in Edwardsville and you shop at Deerberg's and Target, you're not coming across these people. But I live in Edwardsville and I work at the public library, and it's really opened my eyes. I challenge anyone to meet some of the people that I've met and have conversations with these people and look them in the face and not feel empathy for their situation and be motivated to do something about it. People think, oh, Jill maybe is interested in social work, or Jill's always been like, but it's not true. I mean, I'm an accountant. I'm not that kind of person, actually. But the library has really changed me. And so when staff started getting stressed and we started having more and more people come in with needs we couldn't meet, that's why we went that direction. But the things that I would like to see are, for example, this way to communicate better with each other. I would like to know if Dave from Madison County has already met with someone or where he left it, because sometimes people come in and they're, honestly, they're just telling me things that aren't true. And that doesn't even really bother me that much. I mean, I'm not walking in their shoes, so I don't know if they already got a coat from someone else. But I would like to know if this person is in the process of getting housing or what their needs might be. I think it would be really helpful. Another thing that I would really love to see, so James Arnold and I have been working with the mayor and the city administrator of Edwardsville and trying to raise awareness about the need for a warming shelter. Right, the closest one is in Dalton, and we have people coming in the library at 7 o'clock at night, and it's really cold, and they have nowhere to go, And I mean, Madison County has the homeless hotline, but it's really not a hotline, right? I mean, it's trying to serve all different purposes. People need to leave a message, and then they need to have an intake call, and then there could be assistance, but it doesn't help with the immediate need. And when you're standing there at the library, looking these people in the eye, and they're freezing and they have nowhere to go, it's challenging. And I guess, you know, we're trying to think of a way that we can somehow do something in this community to address those needs. And I think a really nice thing to do would be if Madison County had, I'm not talking about you directly, Chris, but I'm just saying, you know, in the area, if there was a shelter that was more of a community living room, you know, John Harvey always uses that room, community living room, where, you know, people can just be, and they can shower, and they can have a meal, and they can work with a navigator, you know, someone to help them take the next steps if they want to, because you're right, some of the people don't want help, but if they want help, I would love to see a way that there was a system that someone could guide them in that process. And, you know, we just don't have the capabilities to do that right now, but those are some of the things that I think are actionable that we could work on, you know, together as a community to give those people some more dignity in their situation.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you. Next, we'd like to Ms. Janelle with Dalton Booth House.
All right. So good afternoon. My name is Janelle Smart. I serve in the role as a shelter director at the Alton Booth House. So just putting that out there, we're still alive and well because we've been having to do a lot of educating because a lot of people think that the Booth House is closed down. So as you probably know by now, though the buildings, the residential buildings are torn down, we are still doing everything we did. We provide the same services. We are doing a scattered site model, and we have clients are at certain locations like hotels, but we provide everything. So the Booth House, just to tell you a little bit about the Booth House, we have transitioned from this residential model where we would have served, we had a men's house and a women's house where we would have served about 30 persons and families. Right now, we currently, with this scattered site model, only about 15 rooms, and they're hotel rooms. We provide all the same services with the staff, meaning we go to them, so we do a lot of mobile, or we'll bring them back to the Salvation Army located there on Albee in Alton, but this case management, still doing our weekly meetings. We've been having to do a lot of educating, a lot of our homeless clients. Well, I'll just tell you a little bit about the services and then just some of the things, the trends that I've seen since, you know, pandemic and all of that. But the things that we still provide, like I said, we provide weekly case management. I meet with all of the clients and families. Everyone is required to do at least a group meeting once a month that I do with them. But we do a lot of case management. We do a lot of linkage services because we are now in this scattered site model. It's been almost a year since we transitioned from residential to this scattered site to where we're now going to them at the sites. So, but we do that. We also provide lunch and dinner daily. We provide minimal transportation to certain things. We do like laundry service, provide that. Then we also provide trips to the stores, and there's some other places. There are times, and a lot of times that is client-based, clients who have not as much access, or maybe we have older clients, and I may do a little bit more intensive type of case management with them. But we provide all of the same services, mental health. We have a lot of great partnerships right now with agencies in the area, so we do a lot of linkages, and we utilize the HMIS system. The first start for clients is to go that route, where you're dialing that Madison County homeless hotline number, the 618-296-5300 number. That's usually the first stop. So I can say we have tons of walk-ins. We could easily have 20 or 30 walk-ins, and you know, but we do try to redirect to follow the protocol. A lot of the times, the same challenges you probably already have heard, ID one of the things everyone has to have is an ID to even, get the ball rolling. If you don't have an ID, unfortunately, we can't take those clients in. But we kind of do some linking with some other services, or we can provide like if we know, and I kind of use my discretion, but if we know indeed that there's a person who is homeless, I can, assist with like, filling out the letter. There's, a letter you can get for an ID, the one that's online through the the driver's license bureau, the things like that. So we kind of have to, but we kind of have to, just use our discretion there, but we don't typically take walk-ins. There are times where I can do it, and I will have to do it. I've had, and we get that a lot of people get dropped off, and people never, and they don't come back. Agencies will just drop people off and just feed off, or the hospitals will just use a cab and send them there, and it just doesn't work that way because we're not residential anymore, and then they're stuck. And so that's kind of some of the trends that I see. We have a lot more of that. We have an increase in my view of veteran, I call them people, veteran homelessness, people who've been homeless for years, and really they don't want a program. So I see that as a trend. A lot of people don't want a program. Every now and then, let me get a shower, or just leave me alone. I really don't want you in my business because, being a program, there's always the fun paperwork that you have to go through. And then there's monitoring, the weekly meetings. And I try to, what we do a lot is educating now. I see a lot of educating, the difference between a program and just a voucher, because there are some agencies that still have funds for just a hotel voucher, but we are a program, and so then we have the goals and we have the guidelines, and we have a lot of clients who are SSI clients with fixed income. So right now I find myself, we've been creating partnerships, we'll just call it that, and with people who are hard to place. We have a lot of that going on. People who are hard to place because of their background, because of their limited income. They're only getting maybe $700 a month in SSI, and landlords want 3 times the rent. So we've been working on partnerships with certain realtors and different things like that. Those are the things we've been working on, trying to, if you just dream with me a little bit, it's a dream, but working on really creating not a curriculum, but even just like a certification for our hard-to-place clients that we can see. We're building this relationship with agencies that we'll be able to show if they're going through this process. This is someone we recommend give that second chance to, because we have a lot of clients with 3 and 4 evictions, and plus have gotten in trouble in between that time. So they're hard to place. And you had a question?
Yes, I just wonder, what kind of a capacity, in other words, you have a limited capacity to house people now.
Mm-hmm.
What would meet the demand that you see? Twice the many, 3 times that many? I mean, I'm just curious.
Meaning what do you
said
think, what do I think we need?
Yeah, but how many rooms do you, how many spots do you think you need?
Like I said, dream with me. It's a goal. It's really, I can see that there's people that we serve every day that they're not gonna ever be ready for a program, and that's the reality of it. That's just where they are, and it's probably even mental health is sometimes a factor, and other things. I think we need long-term housing, 6 to 12 months now. Our program, 30 to 60 days. In some cases, I have the discretion, to do 90 days. And, it really is case by case, but typically if I have a client who's working, they have a goal, 30 to 60 days. But I do think we need long-term housing. I would love to see, at least being able to provide a capacity for 40 to 50 people.
Okay.
And even splitting that up maybe with long-term, because we do have clients, and we have had an increase of elderly clients, and they have fixed incomes and health issues. And I even had an elderly client who comes in, because we have people who frequently come in during the day because we provide the cooling center at the core. and, but having an assault on her record and can't get into any facility in which she absolutely needs assisted living. So those are some complex things, hard cases that I have to try to navigate through on a daily basis, but we absolutely need to be able to provide more, a greater capacity, because there are homeless people all over. We do a lot of driving and just the different encampments and the just really creative different places. They're located all over different encampments and places they know that they can take shelter and, just different things, the ones that come in and talk to on a daily basis. But, because other than that, the challenge is that a lot of people just aren't ready. And when you have a program, you got this big, got this time on your head, and it takes, some people honestly need more than 30 to 60 days to do some of the things that we provide, the life skills. Everybody's required to do the finance management and to provide, verification of income, of savings. All of it goes along with the program. But we have clients who kind of need time to thaw out from, the place that they've been, that stuck place. That's the way I say, to thaw out, because they've been so used to, being just oppressed. Like I say it that way, it takes a while to kind of thaw out and come to yourself and really get geared up to actually start taking the steps. So there's a constant juggling game with the clock, and I definitely believe in grace, and I believe in, meeting clients where they are, coming alongside them. But these are some of the real challenges that we face every day. Like today, for instance, I was late today because I had to do something that I don't like doing, but yeah, I hate when I have to do a discharge, because, violations, we have program violations, and we come into the site and there's drug paraphernalia and people in the rooms, because that's one of the rules. You can't have, there's no parties, no people in the rooms, and when you see drug paraphernalia, this person, just, it has to happen. We have to do discharges for things like that. A lot of clients just aren't ready. They needed more time, but our program is not a 6-month program. So those are some of the different things we navigate with. We have a lot of celebrations, but there's always those ongoing concerns. We need more people, we need more involvement. I'm definitely working on just this collaboration of people. Like I said, when I say dream with me, we're really working on creating just people who are going to be there for the long haul. So when we have clients come in and we know they don't have an idea, they really need this, or they have 3 or 4 evictions, but we have some dedicated landlords or property managers, if we can show them that they're going through this process and just a certification, that they'll be able to have that second chance once they demonstrate it through our program. But those are just some of the things I wanted to talk about today as far as our clients that we serve. And we serve Madison County, all clients throughout Madison County.
Chris Otto is the Executive Director of Madison County Community Development.
I am not a subject matter expert on this. The subject matter expert is not Will, so you got me. So first of all, I just became director last week. You may have heard or not heard. I've been there since October, basically functionally running the place. And he wants me to take a little bit off Dave Tanzi because he's pretty busy in his county district. He's doing a great job with that. First of all, I'd like to thank God for the Salvation Army, and the library, the township, for the work they're doing now. Some of which we're not well coordinated with, but we're going to work on that. Since you got me, I'm going to give a little overview of community development. So, and there's a reason for that, I'll get to it, before I go into homeless. So what does community development do? James probably knows more about it than I do from being there James Arnold, being there for several years. But basically, we're a full-service community action agency, and we're part of a larger state and national network. I would point out many Illinois counties are structured differently, and just about everyone's structured differently. You start with St. Clair, go on up. Some have nonprofits doing some of the functions that we do, but we pretty much do everything in-house for traditional reasons, I guess. We offer, basically, the services we offer is a wide range of funding and services using federal and state money targeted at low to moderate income areas of the county. These include community development block grants that are federal. Those fund projects in municipalities such as roads, sewers, and demolitions. Also, we have funds for home programs, including home rehabs, buyer assistance, limited mortgage assistance, demolitions, and improved structure access, such as ramps. We have emergency rental and utility assistance under the CARES Act. So that's got limited duration. There's less restrictive income levels. If you look in that brochure, there are income levels for some of these things. We call it ERAP, emergency rental. You could actually have higher income and qualify for that, and people are doing that. You get up to 15-month assistance. The county also received about $50 million directly, which is going to be assigned by the administration for major infrastructure projects, as determined by a select committee. We have community service block grants from the state, which has a wide range of programs from food pantries, adult education and training, scholarships, to portable air conditioners, which we've already issued about 50 this year, and that's all we're going to do, I guess. That program has a state-mandated advisory panel of community leaders that directs funding priorities. We also offer energy and water utility assistance, which is separate from the ERAP. Some of our programs overlap. We also have housing weatherization described in the pamphlet to improve energy efficiency, and we also provide sun, furnace, and air conditioning replacement. Parks and recreation programs to help finance improvements. We also have economic development, something James did for us, to improve the overall financial health of the county. So, homelessness, which we'll discuss. Okay, so basically the entire community development has about 20 different grants, different reporting requirements, monitoring, and fiscal years. We have a huge financial oversight function. We had a budget of about $32.5 million in 2021. About double our normal due to CARES Act funding. So normally we're about 16, 17 million. Additionally, keep in mind these programs are strictly regulated and monitored. There is no political agenda. Nobody's given us direction to help or not help people. The programs are standardized whether you're in Chicago, Peoria, or Madison County. People who have been there more than 25 years, like Amy Lyrola and Lisa Merskinger, will tell you we're doing the same stuff we used to do 10 years ago. So, the homeless. So the purpose of describing all that was that a lot of our programs, the purpose is to keep people from becoming homeless, especially the vulnerable, seniors, veterans, the sick, women, and children. The state of homelessness, as best as was given to me, difficult to determine because there are a lot of transients. But those on the street, shelters, motels, we estimate about 50 to 100, in addition to those that don't seek aid. And I'll just point out Derek Jackson back from Collinsville. They've been very proactive. If you can imagine Main Street here with people harassing people outside the Wildy and sleeping in doorways, probably wouldn't go over too well. And they're definitely trying to figure out some solutions down there. And had some meetings with a lot of different people across a wide spectrum to try to find some solutions. So what we offer, we have several federal grants targeted to help those who are experiencing homelessness, including Housing First, Chestnut Madison Recovery, Emergency Solutions, Rental Housing Support Program, and Emergency and Rapid Rehousing. Through these programs, we seek to provide stable housing to those currently experiencing homelessness. I'd also add the Edwardsville Township, Derek Keith Cox down there has taken a lead, trying to help that, particularly during the cold weather we had last winter. How we administer the program. Okay, there's something called a continuum of care. So we don't call the shots in community development. We get the money, and there's about 25 different government agencies and nonprofits officially called the Madison County Partnership to End Homelessness. The COC, we call it, offers stable housing, food, bus tokens, training, and access to other government programs. We secure most of the funding, some $1.5 million plus, but the COC determines how funds are distributed to the agencies, including Salvation Army. So I think they mentioned the hotline, which is really I call it a cold line because nobody's real-time answering. We have one person assigned to that, and all they can do is answer messages and follow up, usually by the next business day. So we assess needs, in which we probably could do a better job coordinating, obviously. Connect the client with appropriate nonprofit for services, whether for shelter, health, domestic violence, or other needs. And do we get played? Yes, we do. But it's part of the business. Challenges, I think, as mentioned, lack of shelter space. We have the Good Samaritan House, the booth houses, resources, Oasis Women's Center for domestic violence, and the ability to offer hotel, motel vouchers. Unfortunately, the pandemic changed how we do business, changed all that, and limited beds, both at shelters and motels. We currently have only one hotel that will work with us. Others have had unfortunate issues and stopped working with us. Limited shelter space especially affects men who are seeking assistance. We're currently in the process of working with agencies to gain more shelter space for men. Working with cities and townships to try to get warming and cooling centers open when the weather dictates, so people on the street will not have to face extremes. We're also doing a gaps analysis study so we may deliver services more efficiently. I have my card up here along with my homeless coordinator, David Kurz, if you would like more information. Any questions?
Yeah,
Yes.
I just got some random thoughts. This is just for the entire panel group. So I was just thinking about the groups that come into these organizations. Do you get a sense that their needs are connected mostly to mental illness or incarceration or education? What's your thoughts on why, kind of a brief version, because I got a couple more that's going to just kind of spread across.
You got a mental health expert right there.
What I'm asking is about, because I'm actually on a mental health board. But what I'm asking is when they come into like your organization for help, do you get the sense when you're screening there's a mental health issue?
Well, yeah, when we do intake, that's kind of part of the discussion. I would say about half of the clients that we serve, usually mental health is a factor. And sometimes it's a combination of things, mental health plus, a lot of people have physical things that have happened, but mental health probably about half.
When they come into the library,
I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
when they come into the library, when you have these large groups of people that's coming in or whatever amount, do you feel like it's a lot, a small amount, or just every now and again?
With mental health issues?
Yes, I know, they come into your...
Well, they don't come in as groups. They're coming in individually, and then we kind of have them lumped together, but I know they're separate issues, right? The homelessness, the people who are homeless, and then the people who are getting out of jail. It's really, two separate things. But I would say a lot of them have mental health issues, but, even speaking to Chris Tharp at the jail, he said if he could have one thing that he really wanted, it would be a 24/7 crisis counselor because of all the issues at the jail, and he does not have that. So if you're on the mental health board, maybe you could speak with Chris Tharp about that in more detail and see. But so I think a lot of the people that are in the jail have mental health issues, and then when they're released, they're coming over to the library, causing some havoc over there, trying to get home or trying to figure out where they're going next.
And as a staff, do you feel safe when they come in? Because I know in the library you have a kiddie section.
Right, so we have cameras everywhere, and all the full-time people have the cameras at their desk. We always have quite a few people working at the library because of that, and we're very cognizant of that risk. So we watch all the time, and the police are always ready. When we call them, they're there in a few minutes, so it's quick. So we do feel safe, but I would say that there have been times where, I made the mistake of letting somebody come in my office, and then I felt a little bit, cornered. But training, yes.
First aid training, all of your
mental health,
staff.
first aid.
Right.
And the last is, just thinking, because when I think about some of these issues, has the thought of sort of, like in the military, they have like GP medium tents and portable tents, or, you know, with a platform underneath, and, you know, you can sort of move them from location to location. And so the thought came up, and because when I think about these things, let me gather my thoughts with this, because I just wrote it down. The first thing that comes to mind is safety and security when you start thinking, well, how do I help in a way, especially if you're in a community, or you said in houses or apartments and hotels. You know, most people are thinking about the security. I want to help you, but, you know, is it safe to help you? So as a organizations, have you sort of thought about, well, we got all these open campgrounds or fields or area, is it possible to create maybe like during the winter when it's really cold, or summer when it's really hot, and, you know, maybe mobilize it from this area right now, this area now, and kind of move it around so you don't get those squatters that just sit in a place for a long period of time. But my point is, perhaps have a security officer assigned there, and then you provide food, heat, and some water to sort of clean up and allow them to kind of go on their way. So once they come into your place, he says, okay, he may be a safety risk, or he's a repeat person. There is a bus or taxi that'll take them to those mobile areas where they can get some food, maybe clean up a little bit, and then kind of get them on their way, because your parents, maybe they're just long term and they just keep repeating. But you're sort of out of the community, because the first thing happens, this is my home, this is my children, we're going in and out. I don't want that here, but I want to help, but I just don't want it in my area. So, and I'm saying a lot, so I'm just kind of tossing that thought out there. Is that something that's been maybe thought about, or something that's possible? And at any point, you can just kind of drop the tents, clean her up, and sort of move it away. So if you see maybe a large group in one area, it says, okay, wait, we need to clean this area up, what we're going to do with them? Boom, and sort of move them there, kind of stabilize them a little bit, and then they can move on to maybe other areas.
That's an interesting idea, but I think every potential solution has a problem. For instance, when we were talking about Collinsville, we were talking about, wouldn't it be great if we could put, when it's like, 0 degrees, well, if we got some MCT buses that weren't running, and had them running, and put people on there, then you're like, well, what about messes? What about bathrooms? So, and we start creating housing for people, then we've got a whole lot of liability we're creating. I don't know how we handle that. So, I mean, that's not been really looked into. And then what if, what about, you got a tent, it's going to be cold or hot. Again, providing facilities, you talk about security officers and pay for that. So, I mean, definitely the tent thing I will take back to my homeless coordinator in the house. Talk about it with him. So.
Chris, I'd like to kind of follow up on what you were sharing. I had the advantage of visiting a unique community in Austin, Texas, that was started by a church group and then is now run by nonprofits, and it's called Community First. As you pointed out, this is a complex issue, so one solution isn't going to do it. But this addresses the need to help those who need more time. In this community, they're referred to as the chronically homeless. They've essentially set up a community outside of the city that is constructed of a main building or two that is a place to shower, have toilet facilities, washing machines and dryers. People aren't doing this for anyone. It's set up and they do their own.
Yeah.
The homes that are set up to house the chronically homeless are tiny homes built by the people who have passed muster to become part of the community. There's a community garden. The bus system runs through. There's training so that people can get jobs, live in this community, and leave the community to go to work and come back. It does not address everything. It doesn't address those who perhaps do not currently want services. but it is a really beautiful program that's been in existence for over a decade, and it's certainly worth looking into. It's called Community First. They offer tours, and groups of people can go and do mission work there for a week. You gotta see it to believe it. It's incredibly well run.
It fills the gap. It sort of gives you an immediate, because you're gonna pay whether you do it or not.
Well, it helps people step from, instead of staying in a tent or a hotel, it helps them step from a tent out in the woods illegally to establishing a home. And there's no 30, 60-day limit. These people stay. It's their community. It's theirs. They take charge.
We do have that on a smaller scale. We have approximately 20 families in what we call transitional housing. So basically the idea of that is they get in there, we have a caseworker and one caseworker, and she works with them to get them on the road to being financially stable and employed. And if they flunk out, then they're out of it. But there's an incentive to stay in the program. So we're doing that but there's a limited availability, obviously, funding-wise, and ability to manage that program.
And how long are they allowed to stay?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know the details of that. Maybe 6 months here, I don't know. And then we try to keep that program filled up with people. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This may be a point that most people are interested in, but there's not a strict distinction between people with mental illness and people who are homeless. In other words, there's a certain percentage of the population that's always going to have serious mental illness. That's a given whatever biopsychosocial causes there are for serious mental illness. But medical, bankruptcy because of medical expenses, fleeing domestic situations, kids people that grew up with coercive parenting and don't know how to manage their emotions. These people aren't necessarily classically mentally ill. What happens is 2 or 3 major life stressors and they develop symptoms, and then they're in a loop. And so there are people on my block who are mentally ill and substance abusers and perhaps domestic violence. I know next door there was at one point, but they haven't lost their homes. They live in their homes for whatever reason, and part of it is the luck. So you can't necessarily go on diagnosis and say, well, these people are that way because of this mental health condition. No. We are the only major industrial society without a social network that covers a lot of the disasters that families experience. We just don't have it. So that factors into this kind of homelessness that we have doesn't exist in many societies, does not exist. Okay, so I'm just saying it's not a fault of the individuals. That's what I'm saying.
I need to jump in here. Thank you, Mr. Otto. I think we have a ton more to talk about, not today. We only have about 5 minutes left. But I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Miss Sarah Burke-Bigler as far as offering your facility here. Great flooring, great facility. Thank you very much. Can you talk about your services you do here?
Sure, we're mostly a senior center, but what I was raising my hand, I hope it's okay to say this, is that we also have a lot of homeless that come through here, and we do have a little pantry that